Sophia Williams was a resilient woman, shaped by the hardships of life but driven by a singular purpose: to ensure a better future for her 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Living in a small apartment on the outskirts of New York City, Sophia balanced her work as a waitress in a busy restaurant with raising her daughter. Despite her struggles, she kept hope alive. Her biggest dream was to save enough money to open a bakery and free herself from the grueling pace of the restaurant. That morning, as sunlight filtered through the worn curtains, Sophia prepared breakfast for Lily. It was the only moment of calm before the whirlwind of her workday. She glanced at her daughter, who was playing distractedly with a cereal spoon. "Tonight, I'll make pancakes for dinner," Sophia said with a tired smile. Lily's eyes sparkled as she replied, "With chocolate syrup." "With all the syrup in the world," Sophia said, kissing her daughter's forehead. After dropping Lily off at school, Sophia hurried to catch the bus to the city center. On the way, her thoughts drifted between work and her dream of the bakery. She knew the journey would be long, but she never stopped believing it was possible. The restaurant, La Ville, was a landmark in downtown New York. Its glass walls revealed a sophisticated environment, adorned with crystal chandeliers and impeccably set tables surrounded by Italian leather chairs. The city's elite frequented the restaurant not only for its exclusive menu but also for the status the venue provided. For many, dining there was merely a pretext for flaunting power. However, for Sophia Williams, who had been a waitress there for 2 years, this setting was her daily battleground, where she served with dedication but often became invisible to the customers. That day, the restaurant was especially busy. It was a Friday afternoon, and the tables were filled with businesspeople sealing deals and couples on elegant dates. Sophia, in her spotless uniform and professional smile, moved between the tables with the agility of someone who knew every corner of the dining room. Even though she was exhausted from a grueling shift, she made every effort not to show it. That's when the restaurant's revolving door opened, announcing the arrival of Nathan Carter. He was an imposing figure, wearing a tailored navy blue suit, a perfectly aligned silk tie, and an expression of superiority seemingly etched onto his face. Nathan was a renowned lawyer, known both for his brilliant mind and his ruthless demeanor. He walked with firm steps, as if the world around him were merely a backdrop to his presence. The manager, upon seeing him, gestured toward Sophia. "Table 6, Sophia. Amar. Carter is an important client. Don't make any mistakes." Sophia nodded, adjusting her apron. She had dealt with difficult customers before, but something about Nathan's demeanor sent a chill up her spine. As she approached the table, he didn't even glance at her, his focus fixed on the menu with the same disdain one might have when flipping through a newspaper. "Sophia speaks. Good afternoon, sir. May I assist you with your order?" she asked, keeping her voice steady yet polite. Nathan briefly raised his eyes, just enough to confirm her presence, then returned to the menu and replied coldly, "I'll have the executive dish. Salad to start. Make sure the wine is at the right temperature. Don't bring me anything improperly chilled," he said, emphasizing each word as if explaining something to a child. "Of course, sir. Any preference for dessert?" Sophia asked, maintaining her composure. "No, I'll decide later. Just do your job." Sophia took a deep breath, brushing off his tone. She kept her smile, noted the order, and walked away. She was used to dealing with customers who saw servers as mere accessories to the setting, but there was something about Nathan that made her feel even smaller. A difficult customer, but it was just another day. When the dishes arrived, Sophia ensured everything was impeccable before serving. The salad was adorned with edible flowers, and the main course was a perfectly grilled fillet with sides arranged like a work of art. Sophia positioned the wine in an ice bucket at the table, confirming it was at the precise temperature. Everything was perfect, as she always ensured. For a moment, she felt a sense of relief. Perhaps the meal would go smoothly, but then the unexpected happened. Nathan raised his hand, beckoning Sophia with a sharp gesture. His voice cut through the air. "Where is my wallet?" Sophia stopped in her tracks, surprised. "Your wallet," she repeated, confused. "Yes, my wallet. It was here on the table next to my phone, and now it's gone." "You were the only one who came near," he said, his eyes fixed on her, his voice heavy with accusation. Sophia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. His words were like a blow. Trying to stay calm, She replied, "Sir, I didn't touch your wallet." "I would never do something like that." Nathan scoffed, irritated. Then it evaporated. "I'm not a fool. I want the manager here now." The tension in the restaurant was palpable. Other customers began murmuring, casting curious glances at the scene. Sophia felt their eyes on her like knives piercing her dignity. She knew no one was on her side. The manager approached quickly, visibly nervous. Nathan explained the situation with the same firmness he would use to present a case in court, while Sophia, her head bowed, tried to defend herself. "I swear, I didn't touch his wallet. I only served the table. And who else could it have been?" Nathan retorted, his voice laced with disdain. "You're the only one who's been here. I want this investigated immediately." The manager, unwilling to contradict such an important client, took the easiest route. "Sophia, we need to suspend you until this is resolved." The words were the final blow. Sophia tried to argue, but her voice faltered. The manager continued, "It's standard procedure, Sophia. I'm sure you'll understand." How could anyone understand being falsely accused? She felt the weight of humiliation crushing her chest. With tears brimming in her eyes, Sophia removed her apron and left the restaurant. Each step felt heavier than the last. The murmurs of the customers and Nathan's impassive expression echoed in her mind. As she pushed open the glass door, she glanced one last time at the restaurant that had been her source of livelihood for so long. She stepped onto the street, struggling to hold back the tears that finally began to fall. The gray sky seemed to mirror Sophia's state of mind as she walked through New York's bustling streets. The city moved at its usual frenetic pace, honking cars, hurried pedestrians, shop fronts glowing with neon signs. But for her, the world had stopped. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the ground was about to give way beneath her. "How will I tell Lily?" The question echoed in her mind, growing more distressing with each repetition. Lily, with her bright eyes full of hope and fragile innocence, didn't deserve to know her mother had lost her job. Sophia thought about fabricating an excuse, buying herself a few more days before facing the harsh reality. But deep down, she knew she couldn't lie to her daughter. Pedestrians on the sidewalk avoided her, unaware of the tears streaming down her face. Her shoulders were tense, her breath short, her chest tight. She clutched her bag tightly, as if the gesture could hold together the fragments of her dignity. "They didn't believe me. They didn't even give me a chance to defend myself." At a busy intersection, Sophia paused for a moment, trying to catch her breath. The pedestrian signal was still red, but her mind was so distant that she didn't notice. The voices around her seemed muffled, as if coming from another world. All she could hear were the thoughts suffocating her. Without looking, Sophia stepped forward. The sound of tires screeching on the asphalt tore through the air. A black car sped toward her, and the driver, seeing her, slammed on the brakes in desperation. Everything happened in an instant, but for Sophia, it felt like an eternity. She turned her head at the last second, her eyes wide with surprise. There was no time to escape. The impact was brutal. Sophia was thrown several feet forward, hitting the ground with a dull thud. Her bag flew from her hands, scattering its meager contents. A cracked phone, a few coins, and a crumpled photo of Lily. The sidewalk froze. People screamed. Some rushed toward her, while others stood in shock. "My God, someone call an ambulance," a woman shouted, kneeling beside Sophia's motionless body. The driver got out of the car, trembling, repeating, "I couldn't stop, she just appeared." The sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder until the ambulance screeched to a halt. The paramedics worked quickly, checking Sophia's vital signs. She was unconscious but breathing, though with difficulty. "We need to get her out of here now," one paramedic said. They placed her on a stretcher and loaded her into the ambulance as the onlookers continued to watch. Meanwhile, at his home, Nathan was reviewing documents for an important case. He opened a leather folder that had been left forgotten in the corner of his desk. That's when he saw something that shouldn't have been there, his wallet. For a moment, the world around him went silent. He picked up the wallet with trembling hands, as though it carried an emotional weight. Opening it, he saw everything intact. The cards, the cash, the receipts from previous lunch. The truth hit him like a punch. Sophia hadn't taken anything. Nathan leaned back in his leather chair, pressing a hand to his forehead. He mentally replayed everything he had done: the public accusation, the humiliation, Sophia's suspension, all of it based on an arrogant assumption. He remembered her gaze, filled with dignity even in the face of accusations, and now realized that gaze had been one of innocence, not guilt. For a moment, he tried to convince himself that the mistake was just a small lapse, something that could be fixed with a simple apology. But when he decided to call the restaurant, the manager revealed a piece of news that left him speechless. "Sophia," the manager repeated, hesitantly. "Well?" "She was in an accident the same night she was suspended. It seems she was hit by a car. She's in the hospital, and from what I've heard, her condition is serious." Nathan felt the weight of guilt crushing him. His arrogance had set off a chain of events that couldn't be undone. He knew then and there that he needed to make amends, not just with words, but with actions. 2 days later, Nathan parked his car in the hospital lot. He hesitated before getting out, his hand still gripping the steering wheel. He had never sincerely apologized to anyone in his life, let alone face the direct consequences of his actions. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the car and walked toward the reception desk, his steps slower than usual. "I'm here to visit Sophia Williams," he said, trying to sound confident but feeling his voice waver. The nurse typed on her computer, checking the information. "Room for 107, sir. But she's still recovering and may be weak." Nathan nodded his thanks and followed the quiet, sterile hallway. With each step, the lump in his throat grew. When he stopped in front of the door, he took a deep breath before entering. Sophia lay in the hospital bed, tubes connected to her nose and monitors recording her vital signs. Her face was pale, her hair spread across the pillow, and her body immobilized by bandages and casts. She looked so fragile that Nathan almost didn't recognize her. He stood frozen at the doorway, feeling like an intruder. Sophia's eyes opened slowly. Seeing Nathan, she blinked a few times, as if questioning whether he was really there. A mix of surprise, pain, and indignation crossed her face. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice hoarse and weak. Nathan stepped inside, unable to hide the guilt on his face. He held the wallet in one hand, as though it were physical evidence of his failure. I came to apologize," he began, struggling with his words. "I found my wallet. It was at home, inside a folder. You never touched it. I was wrong." Sophia stared at him for a long moment, her eyes filling with tears. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a blend of pain and bitterness. "An apology won't bring my daughter home." Her words pierced Nathan like a knife. He didn't know what to say. His arrogance had cost more than he'd imagined. He hesitated before asking, "Your daughter? What happened to her?" Sophia turned her gaze away, tears streaming down her face. "Lily was taken by social workers. I have no relatives. Now she's in an orphanage while I'm stuck here. All because of that accusation." Double quotes, her voice broke, and she turned her face away, trying to hide her pain. Nathan felt the weight of his guilt deepen. He didn't know what was harder, hearing Sophia's words or confronting the fact that he had destroyed not just her life but also a child's. "Sophia," double quotes, he began, hesitating. "I can't undo what happened, but I want to help. I want to bring your daughter back to you. I want to fix this." She let out a bitter laugh without looking at him. "You think money solves everything, don't you? This isn't just about my daughter. It's about what you took from me: my dignity, my livelihood, my peace." Nathan stood in silence for a few moments. He knew she was right. An apology and a check wouldn't be enough. But he also knew he couldn't leave without doing something to make amends. When Nathan left the hospital, he already knew what he needed to do. His first stop was the social services office. Using his connections and influence, he ensured that Sophia would be cleared to regain custody of Lily as soon as she was discharged from the hospital. He also arranged for Lily to visit her mother while she recovered. Next, Nathan contacted a medical consultancy and arranged for Sophia to be transferred to a private hospital where she would receive the best possible care. He didn't hesitate to cover all the expenses. That night, back at home, Nathan picked up a photo of his late mother, framed discreetly in his living room. For the first time in years, he reflected on her words, "Respect the work and struggles of every person. Never think you're better than anyone, Nathan. He had ignored those words for so long. But now, each one made perfect sense. Days later, Sophia was still lying in her hospital bed when the door opened. Her expression of pain softened as she saw Lily entering the room, guided by a social worker. The little girl ran to her mother's side, climbing onto a chair to reach her. "Mommy," Lily cried, wrapping her arms carefully around Sophia. Sophia wept as she stroked her daughter's hair. "I missed you so much, my love." On the other side of the room, Nathan watched the scene in silence. For the first time in a long time, he felt something beyond arrogance and power. He felt the need to be a better person. When Sophia looked at him, there was something different in her eyes. It wasn't complete forgiveness, but it might have been the beginning of it. Nathan knew there was still much to do. While Sophia remained in the hospital, Nathan began discussing her dream of opening a bakery. Reluctant at first, Sophia spoke cautiously, still wary of his intentions. "It's something I've always wanted to do. A small place where people can feel at home, but it's just a dream. Things like that don't happen for people like me." Nathan, however, saw this as his chance for redemption. He not only found the perfect space for a bakery in a bustling neighborhood but also covered the initial costs. He hired an architect to transform the space into something that reflected Sophia's vision without interfering too much. He wanted the place to be hers, a reflection of her dreams. After weeks of recovery in the hospital, Sophia was finally discharged. The time had been long and filled with uncertainty, but she was determined to rebuild her life for Lily. Despite Nathan's unexpected help, Sophia remained hesitant to fully trust him. Deep down, she feared everything could be taken away again. On the morning of her discharge, Nathan arrived at the hospital with Lily by his side. The little girl ran into her mother's arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "Mommy, I knew you'd come back to me," Lily said, hugging Sophia with all the strength her little hands could muster. Sophia held her daughter tightly, feeling the warmth of the moment soothe the wounds she carried. "I promised I'd never leave you, my love," Sophia replied, tears streaming down her face. Nathan watched the scene from a distance, giving mother and daughter space to enjoy their reunion. When Sophia finally turned to him, there was a shift in her expression. It wasn't exactly forgiveness, but there was a hint of gratitude. "Thank you for bringing my daughter back," she said sincerely. Nathan simply nodded. He knew there was still much to be done to repair the damage he had caused. Then, he decided his next step would be something Sophia would never forget. As they walked out of the hospital, Nathan suggested making a stop before taking them home. "I want to show you something," he said, his tone mysterious. Sophia hesitated, but exhausted and curious, she agreed. Lily held her hand as they got into a car Nathan had arranged. The trip was relatively short, and soon they arrived at a small corner building. It was a cozy structure with large windows revealing a bright and welcoming space inside. "Where are we?" Sophia asked, confused, as Nathan opened the door to the building. Inside, the scent of new wood and fresh paint mingled with the faint aroma of something sweet, like freshly baked bread. Sophia stopped in the entryway, looking around. The walls were painted in warm tones, shelves were stocked with kitchen tools, and a simple yet functional counter stood prominently. At the back of the space, a small industrial oven gleamed. "What is this?" she asked, still in shock. Nathan smiled slightly and pointed to a sign above the counter. It read, in elegant letters, "Bread and Hope, it's your bakery, Sophia." "I knew you had a dream, and I thought this could be a new beginning." Sophia stood still for a few seconds, unable to believe what she was seeing. She turned to Nathan, trying to find the right words, but only tears came. Lily, wide-eyed with excitement, grinned. "Mommy, now you can make your bread every day," the little girl exclaimed. I don't know what to say. Is this really mine?" Sophia asked, her voice trembling. "It's yours. The space, the equipment, everything is in your name. I made sure you had everything you need to start. And before you say you can't accept it, understand this. This isn't charity. It's a way to try to repair what I did." Sophia ran her fingers over the counters, feeling the smooth wood. Every detail seemed to have been crafted with care. She turned to Nathan, still incredulous. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you for this." Double quotes. Nathan shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. I just want you to have the chance you've always deserved." In the weeks that followed, Sophia poured herself into her new project. Though still recovering physically, she dedicated herself wholeheartedly. Lily helped organize the space, while Nathan, always discreet, provided logistical support when needed. Sophia experimented with recipes, refined the menu, and took care of every detail for the grand opening. Slowly, her confidence began to return. The bakery was not just a business, it was the realization of years of effort and delayed dreams. Despite the scars of what had happened, Sophia felt, for the first time in a long while, that she had something to fight for. The opening day arrived, filling the air with the aroma of freshly baked bread and coffee. The bakery's facade was adorned with simple yet charming flowers and balloons. News of Sophia's story had spread throughout the neighborhood, and people lined up to see the space. The venture was a success. Months later, Sophia was invited to speak at a charity event. Before an audience of business people, investors, and philanthropists, she stood on stage to share her story. "Life has cruel ways of knocking us down. I know this because I've lived moments when I thought I'd never rise again. But sometimes, surprises come from the most unexpected places. The strength to move forward comes from believing there's always a way, even when everything seems lost." The applause was thunderous. Among the crowd, Nathan felt a mix of pride and humility. After the event, he approached Sophia and Lily. Then, something unexpected happened. He knelt before them and said, "Thank you for teaching me what truly matters. I was blinded by my arrogance, but you opened my eyes. I may never fully make up for what I did, but I hope to continue earning the forgiveness you've given me." Sophia helped him to his feet with a genuine smile. "What matters isn't what happened, Nathan. It's what you did after realizing your mistakes. That, to me, is redemption." And so, Sophia turned her pain into strength, proving that dreams can be reborn even from the hardest of circumstances. Nathan, in turn, discovered that true wealth lies in the ability to change and to help others.